Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Baka podcast.
Baka.
It's amazing how every time you open your mouth, you prove you're an idiot.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of Baka. We are an anime podcast. Every 2 weeks, we watch an anime separately. We come together on this podcast. We talk about it like we're a book club. We turn the discussion over to you. Usually, we watch a lot of great anime. Sometimes we don't. Hint, hint.
Good diver.
We rarely agree on anything. Sometimes we do. Hint, hint. Yeah, so that's what we're all about. And we are actually watching the second part of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime. We watched episodes 14 through 23, maybe 24 if you went the extra mile. That is what we listed, but we didn't realize it was just a bonus episode. And some of us didn't care to keep going. Hint, hint me. But to continue talking about that, and if you do want to hear our earlier discussion, that is the episode from 2 weeks ago. You can go back and find it. But to continue to talk about it, let me introduce my co-host. First off, we have the jelly to my bean, Jeremy. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I have been playing Subnautica again.
Ooh.
Yes. Yeah, I don't. I keep looking at that early access for the new Sub-Zero, and I just or below zero, but I just can't. I can't bring myself to start the story until I know that it's been completely written and it's all there in a nice package. So I'm like, well, what's the next best thing? I can play the original again.
It's like waiting for a TV show to wrap up all its episodes before you go in and blast through it all.
Which I actually do. I totally do that. So I went and I got a bunch of mods and modded the heck out of this thing. They actually have done so much with the modding community since I played last that it was a breeze to set up the mods. And I've got like probably a couple dozen mods set up now. So the game is not just on hardcore, but it's so cool. Like every single thing that you build takes 3 times as many resources, and it's so much more difficult to get everything done. And if you die even once, you have to start over. And I absolutely love it.
Sounds so fun. Selling me so hard on this game.
I just managed to build the Cyclops like an hour before the podcast, and man, it gets your heartbeat going.
It is a miracle in heaven that there are some games we like to play together.
I know.
100% true.
Okay, let's go to our other host. He is the tide to my pod, Jason. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I'm gonna go. My work is taking us on a morale trip to Endgame on the 30th. So I've been spending the past couple of weeks catching up on Marvel movies, and let me tell you, Ragnarok was fantastic. Talk about a fun movie! Holy crap!
It gets better every time I watch it. Loki's arc through the whole MCU, one of my favorite things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then the opening scene of friggin' Infinity War, that was heartbreaking.
Or is it? Because some people might not have seen it yet.
Right off the back of Ragnarok, you got that scene, and then it's like, oh.
Which could mean anything.
Exactly, that's why I was vague. But if you haven't seen it by now, too bad. I mean, spoiler alert.
They're both on Netflix, so like 90% of you should be able to watch it.
You really have no excuse at this point.
Yeah, it should be caught up. Endgame's about to hit. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay. And my name is Troy, and I'm the cocoa to their butter.
Hey, that works.
I think it doesn't really go with the theme I was going for, but
I was thinking cyanide with Russian spy.
I just want to be upfront with everyone. I always put in my best effort into our podcast with varying results. I'll admit that. But I'm phoning it in this week. This anime has broken me. I'm a broken man. And, there's other things going on in my life that were big. And it was like, this anime happened. This podcast is happening. Jeremy and Jason are here. They are worth listening to. I am not.
So did you get it through episode 23 at least?
I watched the whole. I watched
Okay.
the whole thing.
Okay.
It broke me
After.
after.
Okay.
I did though watch the very first episode of season 2 of One Punch Man. I don't know. We haven't decided what we're going to do with it on the podcast yet because we didn't do season 1. Should we go back and do season 1? Is there anything we could add to season 1?
Is there anybody out there that hasn't seen season 1?
Right. Well, yeah, is that even worth doing? Could we just go into season 2 without an explanation? We haven't decided yet. That's fair. But I'm not waiting. So I started watching it. The animation is definitely slightly different. There's definitely a different studio doing it. I don't think it's as strong as the episode as the very first episode of the season. But the story I'm still liking. The new character they introduced, King. I really like the complexity he brings to the theme of One Punch Man, of ultimate power and all that. So I really liked the episode, and I'm excited to see where the season goes, even though I do feel a little sad over the loss of Bones. It's not Bones, is it? It's
Studio.
I know the studio, and like I said, I'm a broken man tonight. So let's go into my personal hell.
Nice.
And let's do our non-spoiler reviews. Mine, it's my personal hell. Jeremy, what do you think of the anime?
It was very boring. The storytelling just really came across as lazy to me. Yeah, I can't recommend it.
Okay, Jason, how about you?
It really feels like about halfway through the second half, I guess 3/4 of the way, like someone was fired or budget just disappeared, and someone else took over storytelling. It was not good.
It is interesting because me and Jeremy are just both like the whole this half, and then you're like, okay, but there was some value in it up until a point. So I will be interested in exploring that and seeing where you're pulling value that I could not find.
Sure.
And then for me, I just it wasn't good. This anime literally and not literally has no balls.
Yes.
And we will get into that in a little bit. The opening and closing of this part. What do you guys think?
They were fine.
I actually really like the opening. It's still catchy for me.
I think I preferred the closing, but just because I liked watching the fish get cooked and then wondering where the plate came from.
Wondering when that scene ever happened, because it doesn't.
When does any of the scenes in the intros or outros happen?
Yeah, they don't ever.
Yeah, can we? I don't want to spoil too much because we are in the non-spoiler section. Can we address the fact that there's a huge battle in the opening of the first half that never takes place in this anime? We don't even meet that freaking character.
Yep.
I said, don't worry about it.
I am not okay.
The opening is just a lie. It's a lie, man.
Okay. Deep breath, Troy. We can do this. Thank you. I got my boys with me. Let's go. Spoiler warning. So from here on out, we are going to tell you everything, all 5 things that happen in this anime. This is probably I'm calling this now. This is going to be a short episode for us, but I'm going to do my best to draw it out. We need to talk about where we were, which is in the middle of a giant orc battle. And Jeremy, you made the call of where to split this in half, and I feel for you because I don't feel like there was a good stopping point. It's like either 2 episodes before this or 2 episodes after this, which is a lot to ask our audience to do. So we are literally in the middle of a huge battle. The orc men are following an orc lord. They are eating everything in their path and gaining its power. They're attacking the lizard men. Rimuru's goblins and direwolves and ogres have all come to help save the day. They're wiping out the army, and then that's where we are now. So before we get into this battle, Rimuru Tempest, a 37-year-old man from Japan who was a virgin, and he always makes sure we remember that.
Yeah.
Died in a moment of sacrifice, was given random powers by a sage who then became his sage, AI,
Great sage.
magic brain buddy.
That fights with him now.
And now he's a slime with insane powers. Okay. What did we think of Rimuru in this arc and overall?
He's definitely a flat character arc, so there's nothing about him that changes throughout the entire anime, which can work. We have plenty of anime and also other media that shows that works, as long as your side characters are interesting, and I think that's where this second half fell apart. So as far as my feelings of last season to this season, last season it was very much you have pure good altruistic character doing what he thinks is best on a regular basis, even if it's like very hand wavy, Deus Ex Machina for literally everything. Same theme kind of happens on this side, but none of it makes sense. Up until about 18, episode 18, you had very similar storytelling to the first half, and then like this half, he's so hard to follow, and his actions are odd, and it's almost as if he turns into a different character, and I just didn't like him.
I was really, really hoping that we would get more depth coming out of him. Maybe some of his experience, being 37 years old. I mentioned in the first episode that it's a different kind of character archetype than we usually get for an isekai. We have a person who is nearly 40 years old. So I was kind of hoping he would bring some life experience and something to show that in his character. But it really didn't seem like that was there for me. Instead, it kind of seemed like everything just came so easily for him every step of the way. There was never any challenge. And this was something that, like, Troy, you brought up with the fight with Ifrit in the previous half, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm okay with no challenge or very little challenge for a while. I can even justify it. But it just goes on and on and on. Every single thing goes his way.
It's even crazy because he's not even overpowered in the second half versus many of the characters he meets. He meets characters that are way overpowered for him, and there's still no challenge for some reason.
Yeah. For some other reason, even if it's something he doesn't do personally, something happens. Deus Ex Machina comes in, and characters just change their behavior to fit him, to suit his needs.
I want to get ahead of this before anyone tells me how dumb I am for not looking at the source material. I think it's okay if you watch a piece of media and you're like, you know what, I want to learn more about this world, or if this didn't make sense, but I'm really liking what's happening here. I need to find out more. And then I go read the source material. Nothing about this anime's job is to be entertaining and to make me want to go look at that source material. I had no interest in learning more about this world after this half.
Yeah, he just got so boring that.
Yeah, we've talked, especially after Overlord, about source material and how we think that plays a role. But this anime has to stand on its own 2 feet. So, and we are only judging it for its anime. But that's not to say that we don't want to hear comments about the source material and be like, man, the source material, this was great. Because then that also reflects on the anime. Like, anime, why did you make the choices to not show the source material? Overlord does that. They choose to present in a very different way than the source material. And so if you do them together, it does make the anime better. But the anime stands up on its own, but it has some deficits because it misses some details from the source material. And anime has to tell basically the same story in a shorthand. You have to get through the same amount of content in a shorter time, kind of thing.
I can definitely give forgiveness there, but like, we got 2 filler episodes of OVA. What? Why? Like, 24 and 25 are either OVA or filler, or both. So if that's the case, you have so little time to tell these stories. And why are we doing this side stuff that has nothing to do with the greater world and story that you've been telling up until this point? And I think that's where it hurts his character a lot, is we get too fewer episodes with him to see what he does in an interesting way.
Mm-hmm.
The thing I want to say about Rimuru and my thoughts on him, without, because it's just getting angry and being old man screams at clouds, or because I don't want to spend this entire thing just ragging on this anime. I mean, we should focus on I want to focus on what was missed, because I saw a huge potential storyline that I thought would be really interesting, and that's Rimuru being torn between the role of a leader and a hero, which are kind of defined as separate in this world, whereas Shizu's legacy, which he has decided to take upon himself, calls for a hero's journey, and also he has taken on the role of the leader of these goblins, and now it's becoming this whole nation. And I would have really liked to see those two goals of his clash, because he is such a static character. He's self-sacrificing in the very first moments of the very first episode. So we know, purely good, but what if you want to do two good things and they don't let you do both? And the fact that we even have a hero king in the anime who could be like, yeah, it's hard. You have to make choices. A king can't be a hero because a king has to make decisions that people die from. You can't always save everyone. There's so much potential in there, and they waste it. And a thought I kept coming back to, and I know I ragged on in this first season, but is Overlord. Because Overlord was so powerful and things are so easy for him, that anime just walks away from him and shows us other characters who are struggling and develops them and takes the time. And when I said this anime doesn't have the balls, that's what I mean. This anime is afraid to walk away from Rimuru and watch Gabiru have an adventure, and then come back to Rimuru and see what he's doing, which would have been fun. He's having a huge impact on this world, but the camera is afraid to walk more than 2 scenes away from him without jumping back and, okay, here's what the slime's doing. He's still sitting under this girl's boobs. No one worry.
If he's even a slime right now.
That's interesting that you made that comparison, because, obviously we have the polar opposite with Overlord as far as character.
He's evil, but overpowered. And here,
but that's the thing, is that we slowly saw this character that we were able to make theories about being evil to go full-blown evil.
Yeah.
This static character doesn't do or learn anything.
Yeah, it's almost like with Overlord, it was a gradual exposure of a static character, perhaps. I mean, if there's an argument that there's definitely an arc there, but there's also an argument that maybe it's just the reveal that looks like an arc. But with this guy, there's nothing. There's neither. There's neither an arc of his own, nor is there any kind of subtle reveal that makes it look like he grows or has. Really, it's not even him that's changing the world. It's just his presence. Anybody could fill those shoes.
That's what I was going to say. You could maybe say Gabiru and maybe Malim, but there's not a whole lot of him changing the worldviews of the people around him. Mm-hmm. It's really just because there's this power now that is kind of shaping everything into an order, and everyone's just kind of falling in line with it. But he's not changing hearts and minds. He's not Naruto them of like, I'm going to show you my way and prove to you my way works, and then they're like, you know what, your way does work. I totally want to support your way.
Yeah, because that's the thing, is like we were talking about a little bit of the name thing in our chat. If giving a name basically brainwashes everyone into submission and cooperativeness, not only does it give it a ton less meaning, but it's so much less interesting.
I want to stop you for a second because people might not understand what you mean. So we got a comment about our last episode that when a name is given, it actually seems I believe this is from the source material. They got this. It brings a level of affection from the person who got the name to the person who gave it. And we hadn't known this, and so we kind of, reapply, like Jason mentioned, we talked about it. We kind of reapplied this to what we knew. So it's interesting that you're seeing it like almost as full brainwashing. I thought about it a lot. Like, is that creepy? The only thing I came up with, well, everyone's, they're going up and saying, please give me a name. They're lining up to do it before the name, and everyone's cool with getting a name. It's not like he's just naming people as he's running by and like, you're in love with me. You're in love with me.
That wasn't my point, though. My point was more, okay, great. We have these different factions that want to give servitude to this higher being that's going to imbue power upon them. That's cool. each clan, the lizards, the orcs, the ogres, fine. I'm down with that. My issue is now all of a sudden everyone's happy-go-lucky. You've got these ogres that were literally terrorizing the entire forest. You've got the orcs that lost their entire people. There's 6 of them left.
You mix those up. The ogres, there's 6 ogres left. The orcs were terrorizing.
Right. The lizard men nearly lost their home. But now just everyone's cool.
We did kind of call that out in the last one with the Tempest Wolf, with Ronga especially, of how like his dad literally got beheaded and eaten in front of him, and now he's like, no, it's totally cool.
You gave me a name.
So that I can kind of hand wave because it's from master to name bestowed, right? I'm talking about infighting between the different clans under the same ruler.
Yeah.
Not that like what? Why? Like, yeah.
Why do they all get along?
Which we need to touch on more because I have written. So I want to talk about the orcs and the ogres separately, and the characters within them. So we will get to that because we should definitely touch on it because I had that thought too.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah. So moving forward in the battle, a Majin appears, which just means a magic user in this world.
Yep.
Yeah.
And this is the guy who was behind everything. It's Gelmood. He's the one who gave the orcs this whole thing they're going through. And, you know, he shows up and is like, oh, my plan, you're ruining my plan. He attacks Gabiru. And I said in our last time that Gabiru was my favorite character. I still really like Gabiru. I like his complexity. They kind of took away the morally gray and just kind of made it, he's a dumb buffoon.
Wait a minute. You mean Gobta or Gabiru?
Gabiru.
Because Gabiru has the bandana on his head. Gobta is the short little squat guy that has the fur coat.
Gabiru is the lizard man son.
Oh, you're right. Yep, I was thinking of the other goblin.
Yeah. I think
how many Gabi names?
This entire thing from the previous season to now, I think, was a demonstration of the power level of the name given. I think what it was trying to show is Gobta's name is a bigger power boost than Gabiru's name
because of who it came from.
Yeah. And it's also trying to show the difference between the power level of this Majin and Rimuru.
I wanted to call it that I really like that Gabiru's friends sacrificed themselves to save Gabiru from the attack from Gelmood. Because, much like with Gabiru, who did a bad thing but was trying to do it for a good reason, we find out that these guys do actually worship the ground Gabiru walks on. They're not just like hype men behind him, and then as soon as things get rough, they run to the hills. They really love this guy. They really respect him. Maybe not deserved, but they're true blue, and I like that. I like that they went that way. I like that there probably should be a few actual villains in this story, but I like that Gabiru and his buddies weren't villainous. That was cool in the first half, and then at the second half, it's like, oh, kind of everyone's this way, but oh well.
It was cute and it was endearing at that point, but then it just started to get old because it was everywhere.
I agree. So yeah, at the time when this happened, I was like, oh, that's cool that those guys aren't just D-bags who try to convince the guy they knew they could manipulate. They actually do love him. And then, like you said, it started getting old when every character was like this. But Rimuru does his thing and beats up Gelmood, who then turns to Geld the Orc Lord and is like, hey, I'm trying to make you into a Demon Lord. You got to help me. And Geld eats him. Yep. So that happened. He eats him, and I guess the curse that's on him, or the skill he has of what is it? What is it called? The eating.
Starvation. Right?
Starvation. Overpowered his naming love. Because he eats the Majin, and then he becomes a Demon Lord.
I was actually wrong. This was probably my favorite part because it caught me off guard, and I was like, okay, all right, cool move, nice.
You didn't see that coming.
I didn't see the orc cutting his head off, and when that happened and it was all bloody and everything, I was like, okay, this feels like the anime's shifting gears and going somewhere a little darker, a little more interesting, and then
Yeah. Let's talk about autopilot. Autopilot battle mode. Rimuru, if he doesn't feel like he wants to bother with a fight, can literally just tell the AI lady in his head, "Can you take over and drive this fight?" And she does.
And she even gets a little miffed when he takes back over.
Thoughts on this?
This was so much potential. They just went, boop. Yeah. Like, imagine, like, from here on out, we got internal struggle between this thing and her. And, like, for an episode or two, she takes over and then just really... My children, I swear.
It's fine. We all have background noises that show up. I twisted a cap off in the beginning of the episode. They're like, so it happens.
All right, just 1 second, because it's going to go beep here in a second.
It's not a big deal.
Okay, so I'll keep going.
Wasted potential. Or no. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Yeah, because imagine if, like, the AI and him started fighting for control, and, like, maybe for an episode or two, like, he loses control altogether, and she just kind of just does her own thing, or goes on a rampage, or does something awful, and then once he gets control, he has to deal with the aftermath. Like, that could have been really interesting, and we just never hear of this again.
Yeah, I could actually even see something like that happening because of the way he starts shutting her down. And I actually really enjoyed that dynamic where she would say, "Oh, yeah, I have useful information." He's like, "Shut up. I don't need to hear it."
If it's not this specific useful information, I don't care.
I don't care. And she's just like, "Oh." So I could see her getting miffed even more over time and eventually, "You don't deserve to run this body." That would have been cool.
The thing that bothered me about this is after, so she does all her attacks, nothing happens. You know, the Orc Lord gets back up, or Demon Lord now. And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna take over." She's not happy about it. He's like, "I got this." I'm like, "Okay, it's someone he can't easily overpower. He's got to come up with a tactic. There's got to be he's got to come up with a plan to beat this thing." And he's just like, "Okay, time for me to use that skill where I just eat a thing and win."
Yep.
And they tell us, they have to literally tell us there's a struggle going on, but we just see the blob growing and eating it's your eating skill versus my eating skill.
Yeah. Now I like
except he wasn't trying to consume him.
Not really.
Who wasn't trying to, like, the orc wasn't trying to consume him?
Yeah, like, it would have been neat if, like, he had a bunch of the slime in his hand and he just started, like, trying to ingest it. That would have been interesting, but there was, like, this threat and posturing of he was going to do it, but he never attempted. It was like, okay, this is, I know which way this is going.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and this is where I think I wrote in the chat, you know, "Oh man, this is why blobs are scary." Like the blob for the old days. But the way that he put it, because Rimuru says, I believe he says, "So we'll see who can eat the other person faster," or something like that. And I was like, I like the way that sounds, but you're right. Every time that the orc, like, grabbed a hold of him or something, he's just like, "Yeah, no, you're grabbing a hold of my mouth, so I'm eating your hand now." You know, like, you can't win.
I had thought up to this point that the predator skill, you had to poke him on him, right? You had to either tie him up, weaken him, tie him up, something. And apparently, no, you can just jump on a full powered guy and eat him.
Mm-hmm. No problem.
Yep. Okay. I did like
on a planet.
Okay, so now let's talk about the orcs, because we get to see a quick flashback of this Orc Lord's journey. I thought it was like, it's a crazy scene to watch a man, or in this case an orc, tear off his arm to feed children, that he will regenerate, but like he's literally feeding his body to people.
Now this
cannibalism.
Now this has happened. I think it was China during one of the dynasties. The parents would actually cut off bits of their inner thigh to feed their children in some cases. So I know that, like, stuff like this happens in times of really, really bad oppression, but it's so, well, of course it's unpleasant. It's rightfully unpleasant to look at, to even contemplate this idea. Like,
he regenerates. I mean, there's the thing, his arm will come back, but it is crazy to be like, "Hey guys, just like eat my hand so you don't starve. But I was like, oh, like you had thought, like we're going into some darker, more meaty territory.
Meaty.
Pun intended.
And then they kind of have this like bro talk of, I've done horrible things. He's like, yeah, but I'm gonna eat your sins, and I'm like, I don't.
Oh God.
You're so he's like, you're so greedy to eat my sins. Thank you. And I'm like, I don't understand the drama here.
Jesus complex.
Yeah.
It's like a weird double talk that is sappy, and I don't know. It felt like really poor writing. Like they were really grasping to try and make this scene have more emotion than it necessarily needed to.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll keep going forward. So the battle's over. The orc no longer under an orc lord, basically turned back into normal people that are still orcs. And the war is over. And so I want to talk what you guys think about the orcs, the race, the characters within them. This guy's name was Geld, but we meet another Geld who is his subordinate who becomes the next Geld. Thoughts on them at all?
This anime is trying so hard to do like this. The best word I can get, inclusive thing, where everyone's just people. They just have different circumstances where they might do terrible things, and the orcs are included, the orcs are included in it. They're just normal dudes. They just look like pigs, and they were mind controlled. So because of that, and there wasn't really much interesting about them except their numbers. I don't know. They felt like throwaway characters. Like they could have been more ogres. They could have been more lizard men. They could have been more goblins. It really didn't matter because there was nothing special about them except that they were mind controlled for a while.
Yeah, I completely agree. Even this character himself, this Geld, they try to bring him into the spotlight a couple of times in some later battles, but he's just like, I don't know. And what can you expect? Because there's so many characters that they're introducing, but they're not really developing in a meaningful way that I'm actually caring about these characters. I know who they are, but they just don't interest me. And so having just another one slapped in there, even the named character, just not interesting.
Yeah, I'm okay with the inclusiveness theme because I think it ties in with my like of villains that aren't like pure evil, that they just believe they're good guys. And so I kind of like what they're trying to say there, but I absolutely agree that they don't develop this at all. We have a group of people who have done a horrific thing. Like they were literally eating all the friends and family of the people they're about to go hang out with and live side by side with. And they have this horrible guilt, and they want to make amends for it. But, how do they even deserve forgiveness? And there's a ton you can play with that. And they touch on it for like 5 seconds. Like, I deserve to die because I was part of this army, so kill me and let your revenge go. And
it's exactly like the Ranga scene, where it's like, hey, we know people are noticing this, so we have to address it. Let's just get it out of the way.
Yeah. Instead of like letting it build over time or really showing that, that there was issues, like I have to live next to that orc and they ate my family or I'll never truly forgive you. Stuff like that. I mean, I want to talk about the ogres next because in the next scene, they're told, you guys can go now. And they're like, no, we're going to stay. This is great.
Of course.
But I mean, like that was their families and stuff that literally got eaten by these guys. And they're like, you know what?
We forgive you.
You're cool dudes. You like the slime. We like the slime. We're all best friends now.
Yeah, we all love Rimuru.
I'm being a little dramatic. That they're not like best friends, but they're like, we're allies. Anyway, ogres. What did you guys think of the ogres this half?
It's too bad we didn't get a lot of them because they were probably the most interesting characters about this anime as a whole.
But unfortunately, in these 2 episodes, they kind of resolve all their conflict.
Yeah, like
we had to because freaking Rimuru's leaving. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. They don't get a chance to do anything. Like this is basically it. I mean, yes, everybody gets a chance to play during the big battle game that comes up later, but it's just it doesn't seem like interesting development of them in any way as characters during the fight. You just find out, oh yeah, this thing that you knew he could do, he does.
They haven't developed since episode 12.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I actually think that the longer you spend with characters like this without developing them, the less interesting they become. It's almost like it's one of those meters where you got to keep clicking to keep it up. And if you stop, it just drops. So I don't know. They actually kind of irked me a little bit because like so many of the other things, there was potential there and they were just left.
Mm-hmm.
So they decide to form a monster nation. Basically, all these races come together for a big powwow. They're like, let's form a monster nation, which is Rimuru's idea, and they decided to make him Chancellor. Guys, does he to form a communist nation here? I mean, there's no pay. There's like everybody works, everyone fills your roles, and then everyone will get to eat. You know, when the hunters bring back food, everyone gets to eat the food. There's no pay. There's no I want to change jobs. You have a role.
Leader.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's very interesting.
So, and on a real talk here, I really was starting to dig the Civ, like, building of the nation, building of the town, like
the village becoming a town, and then like starting to get like technologies, not modern technology, but like you could tell it's technologically advancing. I thought it was cool to see. Like, hey, we have a fountain now, we have aqueducts, and
we were talking, from the Goblin villages, we were talking about 1,000, 2,000, and by the time we got together, we probably had a total of 8,000 goblins together, and then we had 6 orcs, right, or ogres. Keep doing that. And then the lizard men were ally, and there were like maybe 3,000 or 5,000 of them, and then we get 150 new orcs that join the nation, and you can definitely make a nation with those numbers. And I was getting jazzed because I actually was really enjoying watching the development of this, village turn into a town, turn into a city, and this just whole like Civ simulation that he was doing, and they just decided, no, we're done. Like, there was implications.
We'll get to that story. We will.
Sorry. The only thing I enjoyed about this.
Yeah, they took it away from you, and it hurts.
Okay, yeah, there is that story. We do need to talk about it, but we have to get there first. The next thing. Okay, so they form this group. He names all the orcs.
150,000 of them. Sure.
I thought was crazy, because they did just eat everybody. He's like, you know what? Let's power them up. Like, I could have seen like, okay, I'm gonna name everyone but you guys because you guys were just dicks.
Right. Well, and also like, just think about how difficult it is to come up with that many names.
There's a reason that we're having trouble naming them.
I mean, that I can't even imagine like the 8,000 goblins or whatever, that coming up with that many names, but 150,000?
Yeah, but that's why he goes Gota, Got, Gotu, Goto. He names Gabiru's dad Abiru. Like, he's literally just like dropping off letters and adding them on. Okay.
I guess they don't have to be mutually exclusive names. If he names the same character or different characters the same name, that's probably okay. If he forgets he's already named people.
Another reinforcement of the power difference between Rimuru and the Majin is when he names Gabiru again. You see like this curse lift from him, but if you noticed, even though Gabiru had a name, he never transformed into the next evolution.
The dragon lizards.
But when Rimuru gave him a name, he transformed, and then also the women transformed into humans.
Okay. This I was actually
no. You were jumping forward. Jason keeps jumping us into the story.
Okay. All right. I'll wait.
Because we need. Okay, so the villain makes an appearance here. Clayman. he has a quick scene where he hears his plans have failed, and he keeps showing up in these next couple episodes. Who the hell is this guy? What the hell does he want? I was so lost. I'm like, what are you to this story?
And why do we care? I think he's just another demon lord out of the higher demon lords.
And
There's like
he
a handful of them, and he's one.
and he's messing with. He wanted to make a demon lord out of an orc for.
I think it was this race for power of the Forest of Jura, and this was his attempt.
As in, well, I remember that the Magian said something about, I'll have a demon lord that's stupid and that is under my control, and I can order them around and tell them what to do. And of course, if he's under the control of this demon lord, then by proxy, perhaps this demon lord was thinking, hey, I can upset the balance, because it's stated later that there's a balance between these demon lords. If I can upset it by introducing another demon lord that is my subordinate, that isn't going to compete with me, then I should be able to overpower the other demon lords. And like you say, take Jura Forest and who knows what else. Maybe take other lands that they had. I could see that being the goal, but it never explicitly addresses it.
This is one of the things that started to break me. Especially since he drops off in the final arc. And this entire season never really addresses it. He never meets the main character.
Where is Leon?
Rimuru is not even aware this character exists.
Nope.
And I don't think he's our main villain, because Leon is our main villain, probably.
Well, Leon is like the villain that is the Phantom. That's just the name that's always there. He's the ultimate evil MacGuffin. Story forward.
Now let's go into the next thing that broke me, because we find out that the Dwarven Kingdom is coming for this new monster kingdom, and I'm like, oh, those seeds that were planted in a storyline I wasn't a huge fan of, that but had some good moments. Those seeds they planted, they're about to come to fruition. Here we go. Yep. Shows up, he's like, hey, slime, I'm here to fight you. And they have a 5-second battle. He manages to dodge his attack, and the king's like, we're now best friends.
Yeah. Oh god, I hated that.
Did we just become best friends? Yes.
Not only that, he's decided to be a mentor to the slime, to help him build up this nation. And I guess I could see why it would benefit him, but
not only that, the king was trained by the ogre, the old ogre.
Yeah, the old ogre trained him. When we last saw the king, he was sending a spy after them, and he's like, that thing's too powerful. This is crazy that it's out there. And like, he was worried about it. And for him to show up and be like, does one attack him, be like, you're not evil. I love you, dude.
Completely undermined him as a character.
Not kind of, but not really. And the reason I say that is the scene before this, where he's in that dark room or at the table. He's like, this other nation's a problem. I think the reason he said that is because, imagine playing an RPG, you run into a camp of monsters, you kill all the monsters, and then there's that one named monster. He gives you a tough time, but you take him down and you leave, right? Imagine if it wasn't just one camp, but it was 100 camps, and they were all named monsters. Like, that's a problem. And so he sees this nation full of named monsters that are very overpowered against his, humans don't get overpowered when they get names. So so he's probably going, and in that scene he was like, we need to make friends with these guys. So I think, the whole fight beforehand didn't make sense. I was hoping for more diplomacy, because I would have found that more interesting. But his aim was to make peace with Rimuru. His aim was not to start a war.
Yeah, so you think the fight was basically just an excuse, like a way to say, okay, I got to do something convincing to make it look like I'm bluffing my strength here, and then just in the end, it's really a diplomatic bluff.
This was a diplomatic move, because during that scene he was like, we need to make friends with these guys. Like, our kingdom will fall if they're hostile and they start war with us.
Yeah. I think the thing that irritated me about it, not just other than like how short the fight was and how it just came off as hollow. And I agree with what you're saying. That does make sense. But, that earlier scene from the last from last week where he's so angry at his advisor and says, you ruined this. Now we can't have any contact with him. And then 5 episodes, 8 episodes, something like that. It's like, oh, we're best friends now. We're allies, and yet another notch in Rimuru's belt, or on his bedstand, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I guess my complaint is not in the logic of his decision, but in the simplicity of the way he goes about it. He doesn't have, he's not sending diplomats to feel this out. He literally just rides into the middle of this camp, jumps off his horse of this, what he thinks is might be a huge threat, and is like, hey, are you guys a huge threat? No? Cool. Doesn't have like forces on the border, like protecting it. There's so much other political things to do if you have a new nation that you are worried about as a threat that you would, instead it's just like hey, let's shake hands and be best friends. Huh?
And it might have to do with that previous encounter where he's, trusting that his dwarf has been well handled. And so, this monster must not be that evil if the monster helped them and gave them their magic potions and is now taking, his dwarf that was so loyal to him originally is now loyal to the.
And I don't believe he feels he's so overpowered that he has to like literally make friends so he doesn't get subjugated. I think they could put up a fight, and it was just like, what do you want out of this? And other than I'll have a new buddy. And Rimuru is the kind of guy who is like, hey, now let's enter a trade agreement with potions and stuff that works out for him. But the king didn't come in and be like, hey, let's have commerce, let's have, let's open borders or anything that benefit him. I've played Civ. You need to get something if you're giving something, unless you're really, really afraid they're going to overpower you. And he does have a flying force.
He has a flying force, but I mean, again, we're talking about an army full of humans versus an army of like superpowered monsters.
Army full of dwarves.
Yeah, I think that I don't understand that. Like, the king is not a dwarf. None of the soldiers that I saw are dwarves. I do not get it.
I would just say I can't buy that their army is so weak, because then Rimuru asking for its help later wouldn't make any sense.
How much help were they? No,
but no one would help.
No, I was hoping to get more of the Civ thing going on, where we're now entering into agreements with nations, and the implications of friendships with some nations are going to make hostile enemies of other nations.
No, it will only make more friends.
Well, obviously.
That's how this anime works.
This also, him showing up literally makes this a nation. He's like, hey, let's enter. He's like, we're just a group of people living together. Nah, you're a nation now.
Yeah.
And so they become the Jura Tempest Federation, and the city, their capital, is Rimuru Capital. Or Rimuru Town. Or Rimuru. And that's what happened. And like I said, that started to break me. So in the next episode, the king comes back. And he's like, hey, remember that jerk that tried to get you all arrested? He lives here now. I've exiled him, and I've decided he's yours. And this guy is a good guy now. Which we did kind of see in the last half, that he had a big revelation. I like that this character came back. I actually did.
Like he made up with his friend.
Yeah, I was a little bit annoyed because it's just this compounding everything working out. Like every single stitch is where it's supposed to be. Every single piece is where it's supposed to be. Like, this is the perfect game. This is the perfect story. And everything just falls right into place. And it just,
I'm telling you,
it's driving nuts.
This is a late 90s, early 2000s cartoon. Like, straight up.
You mean like a Saturday morning Super Friends kind of cartoon?
Kind of, where there's something that goes bad, but everything always works out.
Yeah, and then you have a nice moral lesson at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't lie, or Megatron will get more powerful.
That's right. Two things are inextricably linked.
Okay, so Vesta, he joins the nation. Gabiru, who's been exiled from his home, joins the nation. His sister and her guards have decided to come, and this is where they all get names and become dragon lizards. And apparently a female dragon lizard are super hot women with wings, and the male ones look just like before, but purple and wings.
Okay.
Eggs.
Everyone lays eggs in this world. I did actually think that the transformation having the two branches, because I was wondering, and now I'm doubting myself, but I thought that some of her guards were male, and I thought that some of them also changed to human. But later, all I saw was females.
That's all I saw.
So I don't know, but I do know that in some games, like for instance, I think it was Final Fantasy Tactics. You could have like, is it Final Fantasy Tactics? I remember a board game where the girls would change into Amazon warriors and they shoot bows, and the men would change into knights and they could have close range combat. And it was different based on the gender. They would have this fork. And so you could develop more, very interesting compositions of fighters based on a variety of different inputs. And I know Ogre Battle also had interesting things where, like the different time of day, or if you had pumpkins, or if you had like, you picked up other things or made agreements with other people, it would change the direction that a particular unit would evolve. And so you could have one unit evolve in two different directions. And so that's kind of what I saw here. And it may not be what happened at all, but it's how I interpreted it. And I actually really liked it for that reason. Like, oh, okay, maybe Gabiru, because of his rebellion, because he was evicted and everything, maybe that's why he got like this more lizard-like, less human, less noble, more grotesque appearance.
He kept his appearance. He just turned purple with wings.
I know, but that's what I mean. Like compared to the more human appearance, right? Like all the others except for the orcs appeared more human after they got a name. Right?
I refuse to believe this is anything lore related, and it's fully fan service related.
You're probably right, but this was like the one area where I interpreted it as something interesting.
Okay. It's funny. All right, now we get to talk about Malim. We meet Malim. She is hanging out with Clayman. All the other demon lords are like just having tea together, and they're like, "Hey, have you seen what's going on with the forest?" And they're like, let's all get involved in that, but separately and not mess with each other. And they're like, okay. And so she leaves right away. So before we go into what happens with her, let's talk about Malim, the pink-haired, overpowered demon lord.
Lowly.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot to say until after we talk about the...
You want to talk about the battle?
Yeah, because about that battle has a lot of context for what I want to say about her. So.
Okay. Jeremy, do you feel the same way? Do you want me just to kind of reveal what happens in her introduction, or do you want to?
Yeah, go ahead and reveal.
Okay. So she shows up, and she basically just wants to meet Rimuru and figure out what's going on, but he notices she's way more powerful than him. They do talk a little bit, but then the ogres show up, and they actually attack her and start a battle, which she's fully cool with. She's kind of Goku-ish. She loves fighting. She's tanking their hits. She's wiping the floor with them. Rimuru comes back and is like, okay, now I'm going to fight you. And he's like, well, I can't hurt her. She's too strong for me. And I was like, that's interesting because overpowered character. And so then he puts a drop of honey in her mouth, and she's like, well, that was delicious. I surrender. Or we have a draw. I will never attack you ever again if I can have some more honey.
And this was the start of when I hated this character.
Did anyone notice that this is the exact same thing that happened with another demon lord in another isekai anime of another lolly that's super underdressed?
I didn't. What are we talking about?
How not to summon a demon lord? They literally just gave her a cookie and she became their friend.
Oh my god, you're right.
I was like, apparently if I ever run into a half-dressed demon lord female, I just need to give her some candy and I am set for life.
Now, why was, because I was okay with that. Why was I okay with that, but I'm not okay with this? I think it's presentation. I think it's the context. They built up a situation where that was interesting in that anime.
There was also the fingering going on.
Oh, yeah.
Episode.
I forgot about that.
All right, Jason. So are we good, Derek? Are you ready to talk about this girl?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think in this, the way they're presenting this, they use the word... Let's start over, because this is not making sense in my head. the title Demon Lord has zero consistency across this entire anime. And the title Demon Lord does not necessarily mean evil. It seems to have a tendency to be evil, but it seems to refer to a power level rather than a disposition.
I agree.
I kind of agree. I feel like there's some consistency to it. They kind of started to explain it.
So on multiple
inclination toward evil, like you said, but yeah.
So on multiple occasions, Malim talks about boredom. She talks about, just friendship. She talks about things like, just a slew of a lack of responsibility. When she said, "Hey, I'm going to go meet them," takes off, lands there, and says, "I just want to say hi," I think she meant it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, the ogres attacking her was their fault.
Yeah.
Like, she probably would not have been violent if they had not attacked her. And she lives for battle because that's the only thing that can quell her boredom. So that's one of the reasons I kind of buy the honey thing. Because not only was she just looking to say hi, she was looking for something to do. And as long as he kept her entertained, she seemed to be subdued, because I don't think fighting is the only thing on her docket. She wants entertainment. She wants companionship. She wants friendship. Sure, she's a demon lord. She has the power of one, but it seems that when he gives her the honey in a battle context, because that's really the only way he could present it at that point. Yeah, I kind of bought it. And I didn't exactly hate this character either because of it.
So I think what irritated me about it is she's a demon lord. She probably gets around. She probably has subordinates. This is my assumptions at the time. Probably has subordinates. They all seem to have subordinates. They like to pull strings and stuff. What he gave her was literally just honey that he got from eating something in the forest. I find it very difficult to believe that in however long she's lived, she's never experienced it or had no access to it.
She literally came from a meal at a set table with forks and a plate when she was eating with Clayman. Like, they're having tea in his castle and they're eating stuff. And I'm like, you've never had anything as sweet as honey?
Yeah, I would have bought it more if it was something that was a concoction he made from home, like alcohol or something. I could buy it if it was like nobody ever gave her alcohol. Even that would be tough sell. But maybe it was like a cheeseburger or something like a fast food thing.
That's why
alcohol would have been a different anime.
That's why the summon. That's why the summon the demon lord worked for me, is because she had been asleep so long. It made sense to me she'd never had a biscuit, because she'd been like hidden away from the world for eons, and so maybe biscuits weren't around back then, or they hadn't refined them to that point. A drop of honey from nature, when you clearly live in luxury, yeah. You there's nothing saying you've been held away from anything. It's just random.
Yeah.
And the other thing that got me was, why does she, like, the way that her story progresses with him? I get that everybody else loves him because they were named, and there is this natural desire to love the person that names you, right? Or have affection for them, or appreciation, or whatever you want to put it. But her loyalty and subservience to him as not an equal friend, but a friend that submits to his rules, which means that she cares about the friendship and wants to keep it, I just don't understand what made that bond. Because, like I said, if she sees him as a source of something that she can't get anywhere else, then I can buy it. But she's a person who has all this power, and she can get whatever she wants anywhere she needs. Once she knows what it's called, I don't understand why she couldn't go and, like, I want honey, I'm going to rampage through the village. So, like, what is it about his friendship that's so unique that nobody else has ever provided it? Like, none of the other demon lords or...
Well, they're besties for resties.
Right, and it seems so hollow, and it seems so contrived to me. And so, like, each of these things stacked up for her, and I'm like... Oh, plus the bath scenes, okay? And this irked me, not because of her being a lowly. I don't care about that. But what irked me was the whole first like 12, 13 episodes, we are presented with a character who has a libido. He is a character that gets turned on and aroused and excited at the thought of alphas. Alphas. I loved that, and it was great. And now it's just gone. He's in the bath with all these naked girls that are hopping around and bouncing around, and he expresses no libido anymore.
Do you know? Well, so I honestly have the same complaint, but I think there is a reason why.
Are you thinking it's because of the androgyny of the new body that he got?
Right. Ever since he ate Shizu, that's kind of disappeared. And also, he can literally turn his body into a female form at any time. He is both. Well, I mean, he's not male and female. He's no gender, which is why he gets to go to either side of the bath he wants, and no one cares. And you're right. He was pervin in the first couple episodes, and now is in the bath with completely naked women who are standing up, and he's just does not care.
Yeah. I have a little trouble with the idea that it's Shizu. I understand where you're going with that, and it does make sense to a degree, but he's a slime. He doesn't have the endorphins that a human has. Like, he's basically just a giant amoeba that dissolves things, and so he never had the libido to begin with. So why did he have it as a slime without a human body that he absorbed?
Maybe his humanity or humanness is fading away, much like Overlord.
That's okay. I can buy that.
But I gotta mention that those little slimes in the bath with him were adorable.
Those were.
Were they soaps they made in his image, or does he make? Yeah. Is he pooping in the water?
Or there's other slimes that they found in the forest.
He's reproducing.
We jump forward again. I wanted to say about Malim. I'm fine with her as a character. What I did really like is that this anime introduced a character more powerful than him that he couldn't just beat at a whim. And so now he has to use a completely different method for dealing with someone. You know, he has to, he can control her, but now he has to do it a different way. He can't just be like, I'm the strongest, I'm the best, I'm your master. It's, okay, please listen. And, he has to be a little tactical.
It seems a little overpowered, though, don't you think? Like, I mean, he literally stops her from going and doing that thing she loves, which is fighting.
Yes, it very much is like you said, it's contrived, it's too easy. I mean, there's no challenge to it. But at least
becomes another tool in his belt.
But it changes the whole power level viewpoint of him. He isn't the strongest thing in this whole world anymore, and I like that. The other thing that I did really appreciate is that she's like, hey, do you want to become a demon lord? And I mean, this is just after he found out this girl is 10 times more powerful than him. And he's like, no. He's not interested in the power fantasy of becoming the most powerful slime in the entire world. He sees an avenue for power growth, and he's like, and what's the cost? Like, I don't really understand it, so I'm not really interested in that. I like that Rimuru. I mean, he is such a super good character that he's kind of boring, but I did like that he wasn't. Yes, more power so I can win and survive. He's just like, I just kind of want to hang out and enjoy this world. I'm not trying to beat everybody in this world. I just want to live. And I thought that was interesting because I think like Overlord, if he found out there was something more powerful than him and they're like, hey, you want to be like me? He'd be like, yes.
I know.
Immediately. So that just felt a little different to me, especially for an anime that started with, you are the most powerful thing, again, everything you see. And then when he finds out he's not, that doesn't change his goals.
Right.
Yeah, he doesn't panic or anything either.
Yeah.
That's true.
She's introduced to everyone in the village, and they all know her. She's infamous, and they're all super excited that she's there. And the bestie, she does punch Gabiru, sends him flying because he was rude. But yeah, they become best friends. She decides she's going to stay, and then now they have hot springs. In the next episode, Fuse decides to come to Monster Village, and I need to apologize. Fuse is not the kid that we saw in what's her name's flashback.
Yeah.
I definitely called that wrong. So Fuse, who is apparently just some old guy from the human world, is like, we need to go visit the slime. There's also a mercenary group from another nation that are coming to check out the Monster Village, which is the character Yolm and his people. And we get the 3 adventurers back, whose names they're not even enough in this to remember, but all those parties kind of meet at the same time against a giant spider crab monster thing, and then the Goblin Riders come in and save him, and so they all come to the village and have a good time. Thought Yulm is treated like a main character. He is in the OP. He's supposed to be important. What'd you guys think of him?
Who's Yulm again? I mean, that really, he was there for 2 seconds and then gone.
Yeah.
I thought he could have been interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like they're honestly. I was like, but he left so fast, but was built up so quick. I'm like, are they starting a spin-off with him as an enemy? Because he's going from a mercenary to a champion. The whole thing is when the human shows up, they're like, hey, how about so no one freaks out that there's a monster village? We say you guys just saved the world, but we were so nice that we helped you, so everyone thinks we're cool and everyone thinks you're stronger.
Yeah, this is one of those things where there must be so much more outside of the anime. There must be, and these must just be fan service to the people who already know the story, to say, oh yeah, this character, remember when he made a pit stop? We're just going to show you the pit stop. We're not going to show you all the things that made this character interesting, where he comes from, where he goes. We're just going to show you the pit stop because you know all of that stuff. We're going to depend on you knowing it.
My favorite scene in this whole thing was our 3 idiots coming out of the forest with this huge spider following them. That was that was so them, right? And
yep,
it would have been better if Yulm wasn't there.
Yeah, I was actually a little bit sad because the guildmaster was running with them, which meant that like he was just as pathetic as they were, even though he's the guildmaster. And like this shows the power level of these people. Like as a group, they're terrified of this one spider, and they figure that they're probably going to take some losses, and yet Gobta just kills it outright. Like.
Honestly, I want to see. When I met Yulm, I'm like, this is a character I'm excited to meet. This looks like a cool dude. The fact that he's a mercenary and he's different from everyone else we've met so far. He has a completely different agenda, and then he hangs out in the village for one day, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna be just like you guys, and then I'm also gonna leave. I'm a part of you. I'm joining your village, but I'm also gonna leave so you don't have to spend any time with me.
I really hated that he joined them. I absolutely hated that.
I would have, if it had been, I was excited for it to be explored, but he left, so.
It just seemed like every episode, they're just showing me another person that joins his village. Just another potential foe. Like, each one gets introduced as a potential foe. You got the Dwarven King, you got Milim, you've got this guy, right? Every one of them's like, oh, no, we're going to challenge you. Oh, wait, no, we'd like to join you. I'm just like, God, stop.
Speaking of which, another person shows up in the village. Remember, here's a visitor who showed up.
Right.
And he runs, and Rigard is like getting up off the street, and like half of his face is just gone.
Yeah. This was another moment I was like, come on, okay, this is good. You're going somewhere interesting.
I love the huge fireball in the background, and we knew Malim wasn't with him. We're like, oh no.
Crap.
There's also, so Malim attacks they're like animal men who work for another demon lord, and she punches the one who hurt Rigard. The sound effect was really cool. It's that like air getting sucked out. It was cool.
Yeah, it was.
This is Phobio. He is important to this story arc, so I'm going to ask you guys what you think of him.
No.
I hated him.
Did you know he's frustrated?
I hated him. His frustration was so overblown. Like, she's a demon lord. She's basically up there with the guy you serve. She's not your equal. She's not the person you compete with. So for him to be as frustrated as the anime portrays him over an encounter with her where she humiliates him just seemed so unbelievable to me.
So contrived.
Yeah.
No, I hated everything about this character.
Yeah.
The thing that drove me insane is when it's the next episode, I think, and they're having their big meeting, this group, and talking about what happened. They're like, we were total dicks in that situation. And he's like, I'm so frustrated that happened. Like, we really should have been diplomatic. I'm also now going to get revenge. I'm like, wait, you literally just said out loud, you were wrong here. And you're like, yeah, but I also have to get revenge because story.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yep.
And
It also was frustrating because it was like every potential villain had to be made sympathetic. Like they had to show us that this character wasn't really a dick. He was just frustrated. I hated that. Just let somebody be bad.
I mean, you're not wrong. Okay. Then we get another scene with Clayman, who's still doing his thing, and he finds out that Charybdis is going to be reviving soon. So he sends his Harlequins, who apparently are a thing, to deal and get involved.
No,
So,
it was
Harlequin was one of the people that was with Gelmud. We saw one.
Yes, the guy with the black clown.
that she was specifically sent out to attempt to control Charybdis. This was another attempt at controlling the Forest of Jura. The Demon Lord puppet didn't work out, so this is another Demon Lord level power level chance to control the Forest of Jura.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you buy it, Troy? Just buy it.
It's like, no, I have a giant monster flying overhead, so now this is all mine.
I get to keep whatever I destroy.
Apparently. Okay.
No, he probably saw it as an opportunity to have the biggest stick in the forest.
Except for the literal demon lords he's having dinner with are stronger than it.
Right, but he can't control them. They might be kind of on the same team, but it doesn't sound like they cooperate all the time.
No, it kind of seems like they just hang out and they're like, hey, what are you screwing with? I'm screwing with this over there. Don't screw with the thing I'm screwing with.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, he wants the biggest stick in the playground.
Okay.
It seems strange because, like, if the biggest stick is still not enough to be useful against the foe you're fighting or competing with, then it's as negligible as any other stick. That's what's weird about it.
So these Harlequins go to Phobio and they're like, hey, did you know that Charybdis is waking up? Did you want to drive him and get that revenge thing you were just talking about out loud when you said out loud that you were frustrated because this is a story that tells you things instead of shows you things?
Yeah.
And
This
he's like,
was the most frustrating thing to watch.
and he's like,
frustrated.
I would like to control Charybdis. And they're like, good, that will totally ruin your life. He's like, what'd you say? They're like, nothing, it'll be great. He's like, all right. So they go to the cave of Charybdis and they send him in to awaken it, which we don't get to see. And they're like, also, we killed a bunch of dragons and just hit them over there. Ha 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 ha. We wear clown masks for reasons.
Right. Well, how else would you have a Sharknado?
I did complain at one point that there was no like whale like dragons, and so I thought it was pretty amusing that there's literally shark monsters flying through the sky at some point.
The moment they described it as a giant flying whale, I was like, "Oh, Troy, what did you do?"
My bad.
Is this isekai just trying to take all random things from other isekai and just cram it into one anime?
Is it just a parody and we're taking it too seriously?
I don't think it is.
It doesn't feel like a parody.
No.
In my opinion, a parody is where you take something you love, you look at all the problems with it, you piss all over those things, you hand it back and say, now be better. This isn't doing that. This is literally just being those bad things.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Konosuba points out the ridiculousness of isekai anime, but in a loving way, but also like, hey, next isekai anime, you don't have to do this. You can do this better. This is different. This slime anime is like, no, we love this stuff and we're just gonna be it. All the horrible things about isekai anime, we are in all the way.
I think it also comes. I looked up. I actually didn't find anything except dates. But the original web comic of this, or the web manga, or whatever it's called, was in 2013. So the original stories for this got written before some of the things that we at least are I mean, like ReZero's giant whale, right? Like that's what I was thinking of as the parody here, and I think that came after 2013. So definitely can't be a parody if it came out before it.
Right. So the town is warned about Charybdis by a different dryad? Dryad.
Because it was important that it's a different dryad. It's very important for us to know it's a different dryad.
Are you being sarcastic, or did I literally miss something because I wasn't watching close enough?
No, I'm being sarcastic because like none of these dryads do anything that makes which one of them brings this message interesting or important. So like the fact that they're introducing, yes, I'm the sister of this other dryad that visited you earlier, just seems so inane.
Thank you.
Why was her aura so dark? And then she's just fine.
Right. Yeah, she's like, no, I'm having a big issue right now. No, let's not. We don't have time for that. We're just going to do it this.
Hey, can I have?
Yeah. Yeah, it was like she was corrupted or something, but then nope.
ReZero came out in 2012. Sorry, I'm going to.
Really?
Okay, sorry, Troy.
Okay. One thing about Charybdis is that he is, in a way, Valdora's child. And now I made a joke with you guys earlier that meant this is clearly how they breed. But no, they're referencing children, and they clearly are breeding regular breeding if they're saying this is like that. But I was like, oh, there's going to be like an emotional connection between this monster and Rimuru. And even Rimuru thinks that. He's like, hey, this thing is clearly coming for me.
Yeah.
And they have this meeting. They're like, okay, how are we going to deal with this? We need air forces, so we're going to call in the Dwarven nation to help. We're going to get everything we can to deal with flying monsters, because there's now 14 sharks and this giant flying monster. And Milim, it's like, I would love to kill this thing for you guys. I am so excited to fight it. And they're like, no, because that would be rude of us to ask you for help.
All the lives are worth it so that we're not rude.
What drove me crazy about this is it's like one scene before where she's literally helping them hunt and gather food.
Yeah.
Which they had no problem putting her to manual labor for the good of the village, but to just one shot a monster so it's all done, can't do that.
Nope.
Hours they spent fighting this thing.
Yep. And it could have been done instantly.
So yeah, this battle happens. All the forces gather. There are some cool action scenes in this of seeing the different characters that get to have their fights. And so I was actually kind of into this scene. This was one of the better episodes because I like seeing the ogres get to go at it. And Ronga can fly now. That's a thing. He just starts flying.
And the metamorphosis of that character, that is the most change. It is so ridiculous. Like from just a wolf to a wolf with two horns that's giant, that can shoot lightning out of its forehead,
make
that
tornadoes,
can teleport through shadows, and fly.
But he's technically not flying. He's got wind underneath him.
It's true. He's running on the wind. That is very different.
Very, very different.
I mean, Charybdis has magic jamming, but I don't know if that's even important.
Doesn't
well, and magic is weird. Like later, we're introduced to some characters, and only one of them is claimed to have magic, but all of them do things I would call magical, and so I'm very confused at what magic is in this world.
I'll stop trying to understand it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right.
Okay, so after they kill the sharks easy. So basically, the sharks are red shirts for the bad guys to show how powerful our side characters have gotten. Yep. And then after, this episode's so crazy because Shion and Suye, is that right? They fight the big monster. They get knocked down with Ronga, and they're like, "You go, I'll stay." And they're like, "No, we'll all stay. Let's take on this thing." And I'm like, "Oh my god." We're having this big emotional moment. They're getting ready for sacrifice, and then Rimuru was like, "No, guys, don't forget, I'm overpowered, and I got this. You guys just go." And I was like, "Okay, thanks for that scene. That didn't matter at all." But like Jason said, so Rimuru attacks it, and this thing heals so fast it like doesn't even matter if you attack it. The army attacks it for hours. It's literally sundown by the time we come back to the scene, and they're still fighting, and they've taken out like 30% of its health. And then so Rimuru then decides at this point, I'm just gonna scan it, see what's going on, and realizes, oh, this thing's mad at Malim. It wants revenge on Malim because it's Phobio wanting revenge for getting punched. Okay. Malim is taking a nap on a tree nearby, and they go to wake her up, and they're like, hey, can you kill this? This is kind of your fault. And so she does in about 5 seconds.
Yep.
With one blast.
Yep.
Saving Phobio, who then wakes up and asks for forgiveness, and they heal him and say it's all cool.
And it gets better. It gets better. Right on the tail of that, it gets better.
Yeah, then his Demon Lord Master shows up and is like, hey, what's going on here? Oh, I was watching the whole time. I've known what's going on the whole time. Hey, can we be friends? Cool. It's all good.
I'll never attack you.
Yep.
You know what? I promise never to attack.
You spared this person that's very important to me, and so now you can call on me anytime you need my help. We're allies.
He's so important, I'm going to ruin his face in concrete here.
Yes.
He's like, that's so much blood.
And this kind of confused me a little bit about, what the Demon Lords were, because this guy, Carrion, I think his name was, he almost has like the demeanor of just a regular guy who cares about the people that he rules over. And I mean, granted, yeah, he smashed his face and everything, but like, I expected something more sinister. Malim, I thought maybe she's just the unusual one that's just crazy and weird. But no, Carrion just seems like a regular king of a group of people.
Lord is just a title. I don't think it has anything to do with your disposition. Or maybe if you are a demon lord, you have that disposition before the title, or you have the tendency towards it before that title.
I have thoughts on it, but there's an episode where they talk about it, and I want to bring
a little
back
bit.
up.
Okay. So weird.
I was really pissed when he was like, "Yeah, you can call me anytime. I'll be your ally now." And it was just, there's number like what, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, everybody.
My favorite part of this episode, though, was the Dwarven Guard Captain, Dorf, who walks up to Rimuru at the end and is like, hey, if you have a weapon that can win, maybe start with it.
Yeah, yes. That was a little bit of self-awareness. That was nice.
And Rimuru's like, no, we don't have a weapon. This is literally the Demon Lord, and we didn't want her to get involved. And he's like, that's not a Demon Lord, so just use your weapon next time is all I'm saying. We all fought for hours. This was insane.
This was actually irritating that he didn't believe them.
Okay.
I didn't find it funny.
I just like the calling out of the poor decision making.
No, I'm with you there.
Okay. And then we get into Jason's favorite part.
Yep.
The monster town gets to enjoy the spoils of the battle, which include scales for armor, food, all that good stuff.
Suddenly it was Monster Hunter World.
That's right. They had a big party.
Yep.
Where's the cats? Where's the little cat people?
Malim's like, hey, I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go hang out with other demon lords and just chill. And I'll come back though. In the bath, they're in the bath, and she's like, "Oh, I had fun hanging out with you guys. I'm gonna go." And then she Superman's away. She literally Superman's away.
I thought the same thing. I was like, I knew you could jump because you did this jump thing before, but you're more elegant and graceful. You look like a superhero right now. What is this anime? I don't understand.
She flies.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, and then Rimuru then has a dream where Shizu asks him to save the children. And this is where I realized those children are still children, even though I'm super confused about timeline, but we'll get into that when it becomes more relevant. So he has to save the children. So he thinks about the town. We get like this montage, and this is going to be me and Jason's Baka breakdown scene. Is this scene?
Oh boy!
So I won't dive too much into it. But he has
Look forward to this.
he's like, hey, my nation's running great. I can totally leave. And so he does, and he's like, hey guys, peace out. I'm out. Goes to a new country. There's a school there. He goes into Ingracia. He meets the character Yuki. I liked the character Yuki. I liked that this character is a man from Japan who was summoned here. And they talk about manga. They talk about anime. I didn't understand any of the references in the English dub, so I was really upset with myself. But they in their conversation, Yuki's like, "Are you trying to get home? Did you want to get home?" And that doesn't. I don't feel like that happens enough in isekai anime where they think about home or that their entire lives have ended and restarted and they want to fix it. And the fact that someone went up to Rimuru who hasn't mentioned it, even though he died, so it kind of makes sense that he's okay with it. But it was brought up as a topic because I just feel like it should be a topic. We should know the character's mindset on what home was and what home is now. Mm-hmm. And so I like that. Do you guys have any thoughts on Yuki, the guy who probably would like our podcast?
Yeah. I actually thought he was pretty interesting, but I loved the fact that they're one of the comic books that appeared dominant on the top of all the others with its name written out for us to see was Land of the Lustrous.
Yeah, I did like that.
Yeah, that was
awesome. Yeah, it was funny because like he sees Shizu's mask and immediately attacks. Like, you must be a bad guy if you have the mask.
Right, and and he knows he's a slime, right? He figures out like, oh, you're a monster and you have a mask. Okay, we're fighting.
Right, and then he's like, anime, and he's like, we're best friends. That wasn't fantastic, but it was a little humorous. I don't know. This is just another symptom of this anime where we get introduced to a potentially interesting character and then we spend zero time with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then we're introduced to the children. So these children are all summons, but because you can't control who you summon, sometimes very young children get summoned. And when you are summoned, you're infused with a ton of magical power. But if you're too young, your body can't handle it. All these children are going to die. They said in 5 years, which I assume in 5 years of their summoning. And I don't know if were we told how long they've been summoned, how much time they have left?
They said they had 5 years left, but they didn't say when they'd been summoned. Or no. That's right. That's why there was on such a tight timetable. You have about 5 years if you get summoned too young. Right. And we don't know within that 5 years how far along we are. And is this what All for One would do to you, I guess, if too young?
You just die in 5 years.
I think your body parts just explode.
Yeah. Unless you have Kissy Nurse, you're toast.
So let's talk about these kids and your guys' thoughts on them. We have Kenya, who's kind of the fiery one. Ryota, the shy boy who's got a berserker side. Gale, the tall, my favorite. Just because he seemed like the most mature. I like him. And Alice, the pretty blonde girl with dolls, and then Chloe, who Valdora really likes. What do you guys think of the kids? And specifically, mention anyone you want. Do what you want. I don't really care at this point. I'm just trying to get us to the end.
I actually have nothing to say. So, Jeremy, what do you got?
I think that in an anime about these kids, they were fine. They would be great characters. But this anime was not about them. Up to this point, they were always just like in the background as something that, hey, there's kids. The kids need to be saved. You should get the kids. What kids? Oh, okay. So we're going to spend how many episodes with them? There is a point where the kids get basically an identification of their powers. And I really loved the fact that the fire kid didn't actually get a fire element. He winds up with light. And so the way that they chose to split up the elements and set those up with the characters, the backstory of, the fact that these kids die in 5 years after being summoned because they can't control the power or whatever. I think that the setup for them and the premise is really cool. And the characters themselves, I don't have a problem with. It's just that they're dumped into something where I've already got so many frustrations with the anime that now they can't help but irritate me too.
Actually, I do have something to say about the kids. This storyline was a perfect introduction or episode 2 or 3 start of a new season.
Yeah.
And spending literally 10 episodes with these kids.
Mm-hmm.
And also like bringing them back to Rimuru, the city Rimuru. There was no reason for them to stay there because the nations didn't want them back anyways. So what's the point of them being there? What's the point of them splitting up with Rimuru after? And why can Rimuru just run around, eat a sky dragon with one sweet swipe?
Jumping us forward. We will talk about the sky dragon.
Sorry, that irritated me so bad. Anyways, I'm done. Rant over.
Okay. I actually 100% agree with you guys. I feel like if these kids had been naturally weaved into the storyline that we had been presented, I would have been absolutely fine with it. Like I said, I think there's a really cool story in here about trying to be a hero with this storyline, and then your nation suffers because you're not there, or maybe your people are like, why are you so busy trying to save 5 kids when we have 500,000 monsters trying to start a nation? But no matter how you done it, because I'm no anime writer, it should have been weaved in more naturally. You literally just stopped the story, pressed full on e-brake, put it in park, turned off the car, jumped in another car, drove it in a different direction for 2 miles, and then jumped back out of that one and ran back to this car. It totally took you out of the story that it had been built. As much as my complaints have been about it, it was a weird move. This felt like an OVA or a side movie, which also is an anime that apparently ends with a couple of OVAs. Whatever.
I think that what makes this even more of like a frustrating choice, maybe even a transgression, I kind of want to use that word because that's how it feels, is that the whole reason that we have to hit the e-brake and go on this adventure with these children is because of something that was introduced at the beginning. And so that means that like the solution to the problem presented in the early part of this anime is so poorly reached. Like in the early part of the anime, you find out, oh, there's these kids and they're in trouble and that's a problem and stop Leon. And so then, okay, let's go over here and do this unrelated thing that has nothing to do with that for so long. If that's the premise, if that's your story that you're trying to tell, to go off in this other direction, which we did, which was entertaining in its own way and also not entertaining in its own way in some areas, to then have to hit the e-brake to go back to the story you introduced. It's like, this isn't, I think we're actually getting a little mixed up. These kids are not the alternate story. These kids are the story. Like, we just followed off this other trail, and it was so poorly written that they weren't woven in at all to their own story. And that's what makes it so frustrating to me.
I agree with that. I do want to say I do find Chloe interesting, especially like when he sees Chloe for the first time, Valdora like rumbles inside of him. And there's definitely something going on with Chloe. I have my theories, which will
mean anything.
I have a theory, but I want to wait till we get to it.
Okay. I know what she is. At least I have a very strong theory too.
Yeah, we probably have the same one. Yeah. Okay, so the class does begin. So basically, he uses Ranga to intimidate small children into listening to him. But then he takes them out for mock battles in the idea that A, I'll show them how strong I am, but B, I'll get them to use some of their magic so that it's building up into them basically like overcharged batteries, right? They're going to explode. We get to see all their different power sets and how they fight and kind of get to know them a little bit better, but Rimuru and they can't hurt him. So, he comes up with the idea that if Shizu could be summoned at such a young age and survive, maybe it's because she had Ifrit inside her, so maybe I can put spirits inside of them to do the same, which, it makes sense a little bit, but then I'd be like, didn't Ifrit like take over her? And shouldn't that also be a concern? But he's not worried about that.
And
And why
also, oh, go ahead, Jim.
I was just gonna say, why didn't Shizu think of it? I mean, she like was closer to the solution than he was. Like,
Well, I think for her, it's a terrible experience. She didn't want to put that on the children. She probably thought death
that
was
makes
a better choice than this. And what pissed me off about this is he goes, "Oh, Ifrit style spirits are the answer." Oh, if Ifrit is the bar that we're setting for greater spirit, when we get to it, like, whoa, we didn't get that.
it's true. We didn't get spirits, at least that displayed their power the way Ifrit did.
And how cool would it have been? Okay, I'll wait till we get there.
Okay. Thank you for stopping yourself from ruining the podcast one more time.
I mean, I was on a roll. I figured I should just let up a little.
Rimuru visits the Dryads because apparently now he has warp stones. And he's like, hey, how do I find spirits?
It's like whatever they need to just fit the arbitrary story. It's just there.
And he finds out about a land of spirits and a queen of spirits. And they're like, oh, but we don't know where it is. It's impossible to find. Meanwhile, the next day or whatever he's teaching the kids, they go for a picnic. A sky dragon appears. He's like, hey, I'm going to go kill that sky dragon. So he does good. Now, he also puts on a disguise of growing his hair slightly longer and changing his outfit.
And looking like vaguely female because he now gets like a cloth for a top.
Yeah, but not any
Not
really
completely
different.
female.
An insane level of, but it gets worse. So he kills the sky dragon. He saves this rich merchant. The rich merchant then immediately sends a messenger over to Rimuru's school and invites Rimuru and the kids over for dinner. Meaning,
Your disguise didn't know.
the disguise didn't work. Which in the story, that's a little silly. From a writer's point of view, why did you bother?
Yeah.
Why did you even say he needs a disguise?
Yeah.
No.
And why is the merchant so familiar with this character that he recognizes him? I thought Rimuru was trying to be normal, like in disguise. Well, he's here for these months teaching these children as a teacher.
Great.
Yeah, more discreet. Exactly. Like,
And
why
then-
is this merchant who's apparently just traveling through so familiar with him?
But the cherry on the convoluted whipped cream of this mess is that his waitress wife, lady, girlfriend randomly says, I'm praying to the Queen of Spirits. And they're like, well, do you know where that is? And she's like, right there on the map. Oh, good.
Of course I do. Did you need that for your story?
Okay. I'm gonna keep pushing ahead. I'm gonna try to get us to the end so we can really let go.
Okay.
They then go to the spirit place, which is a crazy maze full of traps.
Yeah.
But don't worry, Rimuru has a. Oh, I can't say that. But don't worry, because Rimuru has a map built inside him. And I cursed on the first take of this.
You did.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, not one trap goes off, which is fantastic.
So why bother? Are other characters going to come here and get trapped? Is this something we need to know? It's not. It's not irrelevant at all. This could literally be a 2-room building and wouldn't change anything in the story. Why are you writing this?
Yes. I love the fact that, like, the maze, the way it's presented is they say, but it looks like it's just a straight corridor. It is. It basically is. It's literally just a straight corridor called a maze.
And I like how they have this like abstract, convoluted, like layer upon layer animation go on. But like while we're watching our heroes walk through the hallway,
A straight corridor.
it's just straight.
And my mind went back again to Overlord and the dungeon divers and how we like experienced the horrors of how hard that dungeon was and we felt the pressure of those map traps and all that. And now there's this. They're literally just telling us this place is super dangerous and complex, but in no way for us. So in no way is that relevant at all. Okay. Keep going, Troy. the people start laughing. They're like, "Hey, we're scary. Keep going forward." Oh, here's a giant robot. You can't beat it. I beat it in one hit. Why'd you break my robot? And Fairy shows up, and the Fairy is a demon lord. She's also the queen of the spirits, and she's also a really nice lady who
Former
wants
queen
to
of the
help.
spirits.
No, current. Well, was the former, and then reincarnated and became the queen of the spirits again.
Yep.
Why? Why? And why do we need this information?
Why did she have to reincarnate?
Her name is Romulus. Do you guys have any thoughts on Romulus of the
She's
Labyrinth?
in the OP, and she's like super evil in the OP.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden they're best friends.
Malim
Yep.
also had a huge battle in the OP, which was not didn't happen. It was just a drop of
Nope.
honey.
Yep. I found this character to be very annoying. Like she was clearly I'm an engineer. Like all of my magic is related to building things and just she was chaos basically as well. And it was
There was something interesting about I take spirits and I put them into robots to make robots work, and different elements serve different functions. I was like, oh, that's cool, but in no way important.
Yeah, at this point, like normally that would be something that I would latch onto and be like, this is awesome. I don't even remember it because by this time I'm just like, all of these systems, none of them have mattered. And you haven't really exposed any more detail on them, and you haven't made me interested in the characters related to the systems, or the world. Like, it's getting more and more frustrating, this whole world, because none of the characters that are major players in the world and actually move things on a national scale, none of them seem to be doing logical things. So I can't even conclude that your mechanics for the world make sense.
Yeah.
So
Now, if she was piloting the thing, that would have been a different story.
that would have been cool.
Well, let's not forget, Clayman decided to take a vacation during this whole thing. He's literally not doing any evil plots. He's completely fine.
Yep.
Yeah, after Charybdis.
Yep.
Okay. So she agrees to help them. They go to a room to summon spirits. And what basically happens for most of these kids is they summon little baby spirits, mini spirits, and Rimuru eats them, fuses them into a great spirit, and then puts it in the kid. What was weird is that they mentioned they're literally giving these spirits personalities.
Well, they have to.
Right, but we don't meet them, or also how, like, the kids aren't like, wait, there's something, a voice in my head. I had no, like, what does that mean to these kids? Do they now literally have, like, the Great Sage in them? Is the Great Sage a spirit who possessed Rimuru?
No information given. What would have been sweet is if Rimuru showed up on this thing, one of the kids started praying, and Shiva just appears and looks straight at Rimuru and goes, "Where's my brother?"
Oh, that'd be cool.
Right?
That'd be cool. Yeah. I did think one nice touch that they had was the fact that they actually came out and said he's literally consuming and essentially killing all of these little spirits. And the Queen of Spirits is just right there hovering, and her expression every time, that was good. That was good. Because she's like, oh my God, you're eating my subjects and barfing them up as this other more powerful entity that you're just manufacturing. Like, that was interesting. That was interesting.
She did literally also fuse them into a robot and then let them be killed. So she can't be too upset. But yeah, you're right. That was good.
But two of them got real spirits, right?
Yes. So Kenya gets an actual spirit. It's a light spirit, and he fuses with them. And then Chloe, a spiritual body, appears from the future. Now, Jeremy, you go ahead, say your theory, because I'm pretty sure we have the same one. So, what do you think's happening here?
So I think it's cyclical, and she is the hero, and this is just another reincarnation of the hero, and somehow she'll probably go back into the past, and then she will be the hero that takes Shizu under her wing and everything, and that's why she's wearing the mask that she gets later from Rimuru, and
and then go back and repossess herself again, which is why she kissed Rimuru when she passed him, because she literally just told him she loved him.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is why he gives. I feel like giving Chloe the mask is the right thing to do, because so she can pass it on to Shizu. That means there's time travel going on in this, and that really does upset me.
Yep. And I know Jason loves time travel stories.
So it's a paradox.
Yep.
Meaning all of this doesn't matter because of the time loop.
Yep.
Never mind. No, we're not.
It just got better.
Not going on this one. Sure, please continue.
Okay, they're all saved, and it is interesting that Romulus is like freaking out about this. Like, oh my god, that means something bad is going to happen. Well, she got in there with nothing we could do. She's possessed now. Let's walk away. But the kids are.
Valdora like does a little boom boom here as well.
Yep.
Like,
Again, because the hero is going to seal Valdora away, which is now probably intentional. Like, oh, I need to put him away for Rimuru to find.
Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about the demon Rimuru creates on the way out. Nope, never mind. We don't get to see that. That's a story for another time. There's literally just a scene where like, oh, and by the way, I accidentally made a demon. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, it's like it taunts you with this. And this is one of the reasons why I think that there must be so much more in the online web novels and the mangas and stuff, which I don't have even the slightest desire to go and look at from watching the anime. But it does tell me that people who read those and are fans of those are probably loving the anime because all the things make sense. And yeah.
But yeah, here's this cooler storyline that's more interesting, but we're not going to show that one.
But now here's a 5-minute montage of everything that's happened in the past 23 episodes.
Yes. And I'm screaming at my screen the entire montage. You have so much more storytelling to do right now. Why are we doing this? For 5 minutes, I'm like, why? Why are you doing this?
Because Rimuru, is this before or after Rimuru says all our problems are solved?
I don't remember. I was hardly watching at this point.
Okay, because when he said that, I just, my jaw went slack, and I'm just like, are you serious? That is so...
But why are we in such a rush to get Shizu's wishes out of the way? Like, I don't understand this writing.
They have to set up that time loop. Gotta get that going.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's what I mean, is like, it's so, like, presumptuous. It fits the story so much where it's just, everything has been so accelerated so that now that they have done these things, like they've come back on track, which was the children, they grabbed the children, they solved the problem in like, 4 episodes, something like that.
Less than 3.
Yeah, that problem is solved without hardly introducing what the problem was. It's
and all the solutions just fall into their lap.
Yes, exactly.
No work for it.
Boom, linear, boom, 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 and no work whatsoever. And then at the end, to be like, see, tied all the loose ends. Yeah. It came off so frustrating.
There's one more ending scene we had to do.
Oh, really?
So we see a man in the spirit world who's angry he missed being summoned. And he's like, but that Rimuru, I'll get him next time. So there's another villain. Awesome.
Is this the one that has the bright orange eyes with black?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Black.
Okay.
Black.
And then Rimuru says goodbye to the kids. He gives Chloe the mask. He gives them all new clothes that looks like they went to Hogwarts.
Yes.
And then he rides away on Ronga. And then that SOB from the OP from the first episodes is just standing behind a tree like, there he is. I'm like, what are you doing here now? This is the end. Did you miss the show? Okay.
Were you sick for 24 episodes?
That's all I have to say. You guys can say, you can add whatever you want, and then let's go to final reviews.
I'm pretty sure that guy was the one that was just in passing. They said, oh yeah, there was another person that was older, like an older kid that was being trained by Shizu, and he just left because he was so much more powerful than Shizu already. And I'm pretty sure that's who that character was. And that's it. That's all we know about that character.
Yeah, and he's the guy from the original OP that Rimuru was fighting.
Yep. We don't know why. We don't know anything about it.
The fight that we wanted to see, or at least the storyline we wanted to explore, no, you don't get that one.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Montage.
Final reviews. Jeremy, you pick this.
I have to give this a 1 for this half. It just, I don't even think we need to go over again all the bad things. But I do, it was so bad. But I do think that episode 24 was actually pretty interesting because episode 24 has nothing to do with these guys. It's actually like a prequel about Shizu's story when she's fighting some other demon in another time period. And it's actually pretty good. I thought
it was interesting because there was a nice twist in it. The character learns something and goes through a fight that she can't win and survives. And it's interesting. I actually enjoyed that. So 24 is worth checking out by itself, I would say, as something interesting. But, this is a 1, and I got to give a 2 for the whole thing altogether, because I do think that the premise was interesting and I almost can't give it a 2, but I'm gonna give it a 2.
Okay, Jason, how about you?
I have to give this side a 1 as well, because I have never been so upset at a mediocre anime that was actually able to hold my interest for some of it, and then just completely fall apart. And then the whole thing, I also give it 2. Because it was okay the first half, and I enjoyed the Civ simulation that they had going on, and the comedy was okay. And then they just decided, oh, we're not telling this story anymore. 25, I did suffer through that. And it was actually kind of funny because it's Ifrit and Valdora after they meet in the pocket dimension.
Oh.
And Valdora pulls out the Japanese chess.
Go.
The other one, it might be Go. It's the wooden pieces with the little writing on it.
Mahjong?
I thought that was Go, but I'm probably
yeah, it might be Go.
I get it.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we only get 3 minutes of them, and then it's montage of the entire series again, but their voices and them talking back and forth, and it'd be okay if you're actually interested in the anime to listen to it, but besides that,
Shogi. That's what it's called.
Shogi. Yes, that's what he played.
So for my review, and I didn't watch anything extra, couldn't bring myself to do it. I give this half a 1, and I'm going to give the whole thing a 1.
Oh!
But instead of going over the reasons why, I actually want to say something nice about it, because I'm sure there are people who really like this anime. I think the world created in here is really cool. I think, the stuff that's happening off screen and the concepts that are just kind of floated by us really fast, those are really cool. The naming, the evolving, all that stuff is really awesome. So I feel like one of the reasons I'm scoring this so low is just because so much potential wasted.
Yeah.
Potential in story plots, character arcs, even the themes. Even I said in our first thing, the fact that he's a slime who's overpowered completely kind of takes away the fact that he became a slime.
Yeah.
And that's just, that's fine then that alone, but that's the same. It's over and over again. So a 1 for me. Okay, so let's move on. And if I've hurt anyone's feelings, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you really like this anime. Who cares about it?
I know there's a big fan base out there because it has a high rating on my AnimeNet or my anime list. But I don't know why.
My daughter sat down and started watching it, and she was loving it. And she started looking at memes about it, which means if my daughter's looking at memes of something, I mean, she really liked it. The couple episodes she saw. I did not. So we're moving on. Our next anime is Mob Psycho 2. We did Mob Psycho 1 back in the day, and the sequel has now done its run. This, I believe, is the end of Mob Psycho completely. It's the end of the story.
Oh, wow.
My pick, so I am picking it. I'm super excited to get back into Mob Psycho. Made by the same writer who makes One Punch Man, which, as you already know from the intro, I'm a big fan of.
How many episodes?
13.
Okay.
But it's only the one season, so just watch the whole thing. And we will, in our mini-sode, we will be talking about non-human characters in anime. So, all right. That is it for us. We hope you enjoy the anime more than we did, and we hoped if you did, we didn't offend you, and if you didn't, that you enjoyed getting to hear us bash on it. And we will be back for more in no time. So let's say goodbye.
Thanks for listening.
See you next time.
Sayonara.